Daniel, it's all you.
Great. Some of you may be thinking, who's that young guy? I was the second grader in Mark's class with the blog. No, my name's Daniel Russell. I'm the founder of a DC-based software company called Attentive.
He's not that young.
I'm not that young. I'm not that young. I put my contact information up there. If you do have any questions that we don't have a chance to get to, you can tweet them at me or you can email me at that contact email. But what I'll be talking about today is the company that I started, Attentive, kind of as a case study. We are DC-based, still very much a small company. We have about 7 employees. And we struggled through a lot of the same things that most small businesses do. We had to figure out how to get our message out there, how to go from a complete unknown to a well-known, and how to kind of occupy the niche space that we were looking to do. And social media played a very important part to that. And so I'll be talking about Attentive kind of as a case study. I'll be giving you very specific examples of what we did. I'll show you screenshots. And to give you a preview, over there in the white, those are the results from our very first social media campaign. We got almost 300,000 visitors in one day. We got 644 links back to our website, which is very important to drive traffic and also to build SEO. And then I was interviewed in LA for some reason because of our social media platform that we did. And so to start off, I'll be talking about what we've done in 3 specific areas. Testing channels, how we tested the different social media channels available to us. High value content, how we created content that people really wanted to see and to share. And then finally, how we amplified the opportunities that were given to us in the end. So to start off, testing channels. Now what do I mean by testing channels? Some of the other speakers have already covered it a little bit. But I really mean finding what is the best fit for your target market. If you're going after business people, LinkedIn, is a pretty obvious choice right off the bat. If you're, if you're a retailer and you have clothes or something, then things like Pinterest or Instagram are very valuable. And so I'll be talking about how we tested that, and then also what kind of content you should put up in those channels. So the 3 things that I wanted to make sure that we highlighted was what I talked about before, matching the target market for the right platform. So for us, we are a collaboration software. The goal for us is to kind of replace wasteful meetings. And so we wanted to go after people who have meetings, so those are typically professionals. We wanted to go after people that work around computers, so people that could use the software. And then hopefully they were a little bit tech savvy so that they could get on board pretty quickly. Then we also cultivated what I like to call a get the ball rolling base. So the farming analogy is one of the best I've ever heard, actually. Another really great one I've heard is it's like a snowball. You kind of have to push it a little bit to get it started, and then eventually, hopefully, you can get it to the point where it's rolling and getting bigger and bigger. And what I mean by cultivating a base is a lot of times in these social aspects, it's really hard to get that ball formed. It's hard to make the snowball. There's no snow. And so you go to your employees. That's what we did. All of our employees had social accounts on each of these things. We had employees' spouses. My wife was on social and helping us. We had friends. And so when we tweeted something out, they were our get the ball rolling base who started tweeting things and favoriting things for us. And then finally testing different genres of content. And here's what I mean by that. These are 2 tweets that we did, both in June. The first was we were trying to test kind of like this list style post where we were kind of see what the response was when we posted the 7 sins of deadly meetings. That got no favorites and no retweets, as you can see. The next one we tried was something funny. It says, we will continue having lots of meetings until we find out why no work is getting done. So just kind of a play on, people hate meetings. Meetings can be stupid sometimes. And that got more response. It might be hard to see, but we got 4 retweets and then 2 favorites. So we continued testing different content like this until we had a pretty good idea. Guides were just not a winner for us. Reposting news did a little bit better. Funny things got some action, some tweets, some favorites, but ultimately, interestingly enough, it was stats that emerged the winner. Posting stats about meetings and productivity was what got the biggest response for us. So we knew that that was the genre, the channel that we would go after. So we started to make high-value content directed towards that channel around stats. And what do I mean by high-value content? So we focused on our best channel. For us, we really wanted to focus down on Twitter. We wanted to focus on Facebook. and then we wanted to focus on LinkedIn. Those were kind of our three focuses. And so we made our content very shareable and what I like to call viral ready, so that if you get the opportunity, if the opportunity is there, your content can go viral. Sometimes the opportunity's there and the content is just not shareable, right? And so making sure that everything is viral ready, and then making sure that you promote your content even on non-social forums. And I'll give you an example of this in a second. So here was our very, very first high-value targeted piece of content that we made. It was a blog post that I researched and made called America Meets a Lot. It was a combination of infographics and text, which, you know, it was a little bit long, but the key was it could be very easily broken up into different bits. So you can see right off the bat here, there's three big things you can tweet out there. You can tweet out $338, average salary cost of a meeting. That's tweetable right off the bat. You can tweet out 63% of meetings are conducted without a pre-planned agenda. You know, people hate meetings, so they're tweeting out all these stats to their boss, right? And what eventually happened was this. In the corner, you can see our social shares. It had 525 tweets, 2,500 Facebook shares, and then 105 shares on Google+. There's not a ton of people on Google+, so we were proud about that. And then almost 1,000 shares on LinkedIn for our very, very first post. We had no social following.
Reddit, oh my God.
That's the key. That was a big key for us. So Reddit, if you guys haven't heard of it, is an aggregation platform where people post content from all over the web. That 1,513 upvotes you see, someone actually reposted it on Reddit. That was the second time. The first time it got posted on Reddit, it had 3,600 upvotes, and it was on the front page of Reddit for about a full day. So that was a big key. Getting into this area where we had very shareable content and getting in front of people who could start sharing it right off the bat. So now here's an example of what I mean by shareable and viral ready. Here's just a sample of 3 tweets from after that blog post went out. So on the top, someone tweeted, on average, people think 33% of meeting time is unproductive. People wanted to tweet that out. The next one, America Meets a Lot. He just tweeted out the title, and that was enough for him to tweet it. The third, someone took one of the images that I made and tweeted that. There was probably, give or take, 50 different things in that article that people could tweet out, depending on what they liked. So we made it very viral ready. And here's an example of what happened. On a typical day, we might see about, this is from Google Analytics, by the way, which was mentioned earlier. We had about, on a typical day, 11 visitors on our website at one given time. This is a screenshot of that exact moment. We had 11 people. When this started getting shared, we had 3,055 people on our website at one time, and that added up to almost 300,000 people in one day, 24-hour period. Our website had launched a month before. Then the next big key for us was taking the opportunities we were given and amplifying them. And what do I mean by that? Assume people are very bad at promoting their own content. What I mean by this is if somebody writes an article about you, about your business, assume that they are just terrible at promoting that, because oftentimes they are. They might tweet it out, but that's like as far as it goes. So you have to assume that people are bad about that. So then what do? You apply those tested strategies that you came up before. For us, it was stats. And then you apply that to this outside content that people are creating relative to your business. And then finally, change their message to make it more shareable. Sometimes, you know, their title just wasn't great. Someone wrote an article about us that just said, new software out of DC. That's not very interesting. No one's going to read that. So we went into the content of it, found where they said, this software may help enable introverts to participate more in meetings. And we lodged onto that and started talking about introverts when we were pushing that article out, and it started to do well. So a couple of examples of that. This was the launch story that was published about Attentive. It was published in Fast Company, which was perfect for us. Fast Company's readership is our perfect demographic. A typical launch story about a software in Fast Company gets about 400, 500 shares. It's hard to see, but ours had 1,300 shares, so more than double what the average software story gets on Fast Company. The key is we promoted it for them. We assumed they would be bad at it, and we promoted it for them. We tweeted it out. We had Facebook people following them and favoriting it. We put it up on Reddit. We put it up on other social forums to get it shared. And eventually, that article got promoted to the front page of Fast Company because they saw all the hits coming in and all the favorites, and people said, well, we should probably push it to the front. Another example, Technically, DC is a relatively small news outlet. I actually really like them a lot. They did another story about us. We assumed that they were bad at promoting it. We promoted it. I got an email a few days later from the reporter saying, please, Daniel, let us know of any other things that we can write about you for, because our article had gotten so many hits, and so they were very willing to do a story about us in the future. And then another example of what I mean by amplifying opportunities, we got that launch story in Fast Company, and then I did a blog post detailing how we got a launch story in Fast Company, and it did really well. Not quite as well, it gets cut off a little bit, but about 300 tweets, and then there was more shares below that got cut off. But that's what I mean, is amplifying these opportunities as much as possible. So there's an arrow for that. So the takeaways, to kind of rehash things, we tested and picked the channels that worked best for us, right? We found out that stats shared best for our target market, for professionals that worked around computers. We made sure that the content we create is just high value. There's a lot of good stuff in there so that it applies to every person that sees it and they can retweet it. And then we kept the ball rolling. We amplified. When we got that blog post to the front page of Reddit, we wrote another blog post about how we got it to the front page of Reddit. And so you just keep that ball rolling as much as possible, and it can really help social. Thank you.